So far we've looked at how to design new designs in Sheet Lightning and create new parts and link them together in intersections and get an intersection. Let's now look at opening a design and modifying a design. So let's look for a 3D CAD design we can modify. Let's choose this one. Let's take a look at that. Let's weld it up and look at it from the side and from the end. So we've got like a two-leg diverter here. Now if we want to modify this, let's say we want to change the orientation of this bottom piece here, we could use the normal activate, and there's an oblique activate, normal activate. We'll forget oblique activate for the moment. Normal activate, if we press that, it will give us a selection of several node points, and these are points that can be selected to activate that object as if it were a new part, in fact. So let's select on that, and now the cursor movement is operating much like when we first create a new part, and this part is following it. It's locked in terms of its length. We can unlock it and then it will stretch out that part. Let's align it to the axis as a modification. Let's give it a length of say 500, and then we just drop it in place so it's horizontal. Now because we changed this, the relative matching size between this and the original design will have changed, so we need to match it in. So yes, we're saying match to that. It's the only option because it's the only thing it's linked to. We want to taper it, so we're going to say match. Now this should be matched, so we can prove that by welding it, and we can see we've got a good weld there. So that was a successful design modification. There's nothing to stop us adding our own new components. If we want to snap to here, and let's say just add something at random there, and we'll say yes, we'll match that in, and weld all, and we see we're just adding new components on there and extending an existing design. We can of course undo all of that, get back to where we started, which is quite useful if we don't like what we've done. Now let's have a look at this in terms of the structure of the design, the linking. If we select this and then we choose select linked, it selects all of those that are linked to it, so everything here is linked together. Naturally it's all matched and linked together. So let's go edit, unselect all, and if we try to move one of these parts, and this is a move command, we can pick a point through which to drag it and move it, and the whole design moves because it's all linked together. Now there are times when we want to move something and we want to unlink it, so in that situation we would highlight this and then press unlink selected parts. It's then asking me, do I just want to unlink it where it stands, or do I want to unlink it and drag it? I'm going to say I want to drag it. So initially initiates the drag command or the move command. Again I select, but this time I can drag it away because it's been unlinked. So we're able to strip down a design like this easily. Let's undo that again, bring it back so it's all welded together again. Now if I select 3 parts and say unlink the selected parts, yes, and I want to drag them, and it will give me all these nodes as possible selection, and then we weld again. There we see we've dragged those 2 parts. We've dragged this whole design into 2 parts and unlinked it. We can always link it back together by, again, we select, we say move, select by that node, and then ask it to snap to a node, and we go back to the original node there, and there we've linked it all back together. Because the sizes haven't changed, it's still all perfectly matched. and hey presto, we're back to the original design. And that kind of unlinking and relinking is kind of pretty common usage of sheet lightning, where you're trying to design things, you want to take something out, modify it, then put it back in. And that is quite an effective way of working. We can also duplicate things, so rather than using the move, we use duplicate. It does the same thing except that it drags a new one away, and we can then use that to add something else in here. We can modify this and link it back in somewhere if we want to. Another way we might want to work similar kind of thing is to select a couple of parts and then go to the edit menu and use the old copy selected, and then edit paste. And the paste window comes up. We have to select a node through which to drag it, and then it will allow us to drag a copy of that part of the design in here, so we can easily copy and paste. And that means we can copy and paste from one design window to another, and combine designs in that way. Notice that when we're doing this kind of thing, and let's unselect all and just select this one. When we're, say, using the move command, so we're selecting here to move, notice on the status bar at the bottom of the bottom of the window there is a statement of what we're doing at the moment. So the status bar will always hold some information on what we're trying to achieve, and it's asking me to select a point to drop this piece. Also, if you at this point select F1, you will get context sensitive help on what you're actually doing at this moment. So the help is quite useful when you're busy in this window doing something. One reason we may want to drag a part out and operate on it is perhaps to rotate it. So here we have a tool for rotating. So we may want to rotate, and we get various options here of how we wish to rotate. We can use various axes, we can use various origins, and we can choose to rotate the selected or rotate everything that's linked. Let's give it an angle. So if we want to rotate by 90 degrees and we want to go around, let's say, the y-axis, there we see the y-axis. Say OK, and there that has been rotated around the y-axis. So we've reorientated that, and we may have wanted to do that before we then move it back in and hook it back in somewhere into the design, maybe here. Let's say snap to node and snap it in here, and we need to match this. So let's say match selected, and what are we going to match it to? Object 1 or object 2, one of them, and say taper it, match, and that's now matched in. So if we do weld all, we see that we're getting a feasible design there. Let's delete these two out because they're not really needed. So delete parts, right click delete parts, we'll get rid of those. Let's zoom on to the extents and get it in the middle. Let's use orbit and just roll it around and have a look. And you see we've put that part in there. There's a special take off that branch. We want to inject something in that branch or do something rather unusual. So customized design is quite easy. It's mainly a case of either creating new parts or copying parts and modifying them and linking them back in together.